I'll call this meeting to order. It's April 4th. This is the Northfield Finance Committee. Pursuant to, this is the justification for the Zoom meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, extended on June 16, 2021, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Northfield Finance Committee will be conducted by a remote participation to the greatest extent possible. A record of the proceedings will be posted on the town website as soon as possible after the meeting. We sent out today the March 30th excuse me. We need to vote to accept those to approve those if you didn't find any problem with them.
Lois, I had, first of all, I think they were well done, a 3-hour meeting, very organized and concise, but I had 2 typos I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
On the driveway to the sewer plant,
Yes.
on the motion, it says 200,000 and it should be 20,000. And I'm sure that's a typo with extra 0.
Yeah. All right.
And the other typo was on the NES bathroom.
Yeah.
The first line of that says 2.4 million, and I'm sure that was 240,000.
Yes. It was, I remember. Okay.
Other than that, they look great. I thought it was a great job.
Okay. Beth will get this when Andrea shows her the recording, I guess, and we'll make the corrections. Thank you, Jack. Glad you caught those. Anybody else have anything? We have a motion.
I move we approve the minutes of the 28th as amended.
Is there a second?
I believe the meeting was the 30th, Jack.
Oh, the 30th?
Yeah.
That's right, you're right. The meeting on the 30th then, as amended.
I second that motion.
Okay, motioned and seconded to accept the minutes that were prepared and with the corrections.
Lois?
Yes.
There's another correction then, because on the minute meetings, it says March 28th on my copy of the meeting. It says for the March 28th, 2022.
Oh,
At the top of my,
Right.
mine says April 4th.
No, it's
no, on the meeting minutes, Finance Committee meeting minutes, March 28th, 2022, 6 p.m. So we changed it from the 28th to the 30th. So I think we need to adjust the date on the minutes as well.
yeah, Sue is correct there.
You're right.
Okay. All right, we had a meeting on Wednesday that week. Okay, all right, that's another correction then, thank you. Jack's memo said, Jack's motion, excuse me, said with corrections, right?
Mhm.
So that covers us for the correction. Thank you, so.
Yeah.
Okay, and Jack made the motion and Bernie seconded it, I believe. You're both okay with this correction?
Absolutely.
Yes, and
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
I
Aye. Unanimous. Okay.
No, I'm going to abstain, Lois. I wasn't there. Sue
Okay.
abstains. I wasn't there.
Right, okay. Andrea, I thought we'd have any update that you want to give us before we get into some of the other details.
Yeah, just two questions for you. We've now settled out, we've received all the funding from the various COVID accounts, the CARES Act, FEMA. We wanted to obviously spend all those funds. We also did give some to the school to finish, to balance with their Green Communities grant to do some of the HVAC work. And we didn't know what FEMA would cover. We didn't know what CARES Act would cover. So we were balancing a lot of stuff. So in the end, after all of the 2 years of COVID, we are going to have a slight shortfall of $9,532.93. I didn't know if you wanted me to do a warrant article or whether you wanted me to just put in a reserve fund transfer or wait till the end of the year and try to find accounts to transfer in and balance that out. But if it's going to go to town meeting, I would have to get an article in now. I'm thinking we can probably wait till the end of the year and try to balance it in current funding, if that works for you guys. But I mean, really leaving that option. Now that I have the final number, kind of leaving that option with you guys.
Okay. So there's 9,000 something that's left.
About $9,500 that's negative after all the COVID expenditures and all the COVID grants and all the FEMA money that we're eligible and everything that's come in. It's done now, and we need to just close that by June 30th. So we can do that any way we want, whichever way you recommend.
Anybody have thoughts on it? Andrea's suggesting leave it till the end of the year, and that would cover some of the transfers that we sometimes incur at the end.
For that amount, I would suggest we go with the transfers option that Andrea proposes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second Jack's motion.
Okay, further discussion? This will be to hold that 9,000 something in an account until later. Is that what all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
We'll work to close that out with existing funds from accounts we don't expend, or I can
It's
do
a
a reserve fund
shortfall.
transfer. I think between all of those things, we should be able to do it. I hate to throw it on next year's tax rate. We can probably find, that money in the current year through various
Okay.
accounts or such.
Okay, very good.
Then I have an
Anything-
email from Beth in the assessor's office, and this was after a discussion we had with our accountant. And after she just got some abatement applications, because the abatement period closed last Thursday or Friday, and we were kind of holding our breath on it. Our current overlay balance is about $150,000. Our deadline for filing abatements was Friday, April 1st, so we just closed it out. She received a few abatement applications without any substantial strain on the overlay account. That's fine. But we really want to discuss two potentially large abatement applications that have possible implications. One is Verizon. They're applying for abatements in every town and city in the Commonwealth. We went through this a few years ago when they didn't like the DOR assessment method, and every town had to settle this out, and the towns had to pay some back money when the state finally settled the assessment method. Well, apparently last year, the state put in a new assessment method for Verizon for all the poles and everything on the box, all that for all their equipment. And they don't like it again. And now they're filing an abatement in every city and town in the Commonwealth. We don't know what that abatement will be, but they're disputing some $10 million in value. So she doesn't really have any clue as to what that will settle with. We don't know what, because usually that goes to the state to work on because it's in every city and town. So that one gives us a little pause. But the bigger one is First Light. They had a huge change in their assessment this year for personal property. Not so much their real estate, but their personal property. Now, having said that, they've been held steady for the last 3 years. We're very comfortable in we had a full assessment done, a full evaluation done with a company we're very comfortable with. And And she actually sent the information back off to them, and talked to them. And they're like, no, we think that, they didn't really dispute anything. They send a very general abatement letter. Doesn't tell you what they think their value should be, doesn't give them any sense. But that's a huge customer that we will be dealing with, that the assessors will have to reconcile that abatement period with an abatement with them. So those are two very large potential abatements, or sizable abatements, I should say, that the assessors have to possibly grant. Now, if you look at your budget summary sheet that I send you, every year you historically put into overlay $50,000. It's on your
Yeah.
sheet on the very first page. The accountant picked it up. He said that's very low. And after these two abatements, it's making the assessor's office a little nervous as well. So they're recommending that we consider possibly upping the abatement this year, the overlay this year, maybe 1 year, and see how the dust settles. It may be permanently that we want to up that once we see how the dust settles. But generally speaking, that 50,000 is kind of low. Now, we have a healthy amount in our current overlay, but she also has regular abatements, household abatements, car abatement, she has to deal with all of those as well. So she gets this worksheet. I gave her the worksheet so she could play with it to see what would happen if she changed that 50,000 number to what implication it would have. So currently 50,000 on the overlay, based on the numbers you guys have for the budget, gives us that tax rate of $14.49 projected. And I have to tell you this, every year we project a tax rate, and then every year it comes in lower. And that's because we're very low on our local estimated receipts. In fact, you can see that I've bumped it to 425. It used to be 400. And I think the 2022 at 506.5, I think that's actually low. I think our number came in closer to 700,000. So that's what drives the tax rate down, is we're very conservative with our revenues. But I just want you to be aware of that. But anyway, the estimate is 1449. If we bump 1,000 to 100,000 in overlay, it will actually bump the tax rate to $14.57. If we go to 150 this year, the tax rate will become $14.65, the projected tax rate. So assessors are asking you to consider changing that number. One abatement alone has a potential of $115,000. If that's the case, the 150 that we currently have will go very quickly, leaving us with 35, and 50 new would be 85. If we have the other one settled too, 85 may not be enough for both of those two, let alone your standard normal abatements that will occur for other people's applications over the course of the year. So
How much would they like it to go to?
I think that you're going to have to go to at least 100,000 to be safe this year, and then reevaluate it. 150 is very safe. It really gives you, a cushion. The thing to remember too is that if you end up with a huge number, if those abatements don't come through, you can request next year that they release overlay back to the budget. So even though we'll raise it on the tax rate this year, we can then use it as a funding source in a future year, should those abatements not come into play as high as we think. So it's a question now, if you go over your overlay, then you have to throw it on the tax rate anyway. So it's sort of a question of, do we do it up front, or do we cross our fingers, hold our breath, and throw it on at the end if we have to? So it's really just a timing question, and we don't know the numbers.
Okay.
DOR doesn't like to see you go negative on the overlay. They find that very disheartening, and then they feel you haven't done your due diligence in funding your overlay account. But we are in a situation where it's kind of a bit tricky. We don't know how either of those will go because our abatement period just ended. So.
Okay, it sounds like a reasonable thing to do to raise it. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I agree. Sorry, Jack, go ahead.
I think we should go to the 150. I mean, that'll raise the tax rate to about, I think, 1465, which is still pretty good. And it does provide some safety, margin of safety for the overlay.
Okay, is that a motion?
Well, if there's no more discussion, yes. But if that's it, that's my motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second it.
And Bernie, did you have something to say on it earlier?
I just had a quick question for Andrea. Obviously, since the utilities are asking for abatements, obviously First Light and Verizon, is Eversource also going to ask for an abatement on their?
I may be wrong. It may be the Eversource abatement. I'm sorry. I said Verizon. I apologize. It is Eversource.
Okay,
It's not Verizon.
because I know they've been challenging most of Massachusetts.
The Eversource. It's the Eversource abatement. I just switched them when I was saying it, but it is the Eversource.
Okay, thank you.
abatement.
That clears it up. Thank you.
Okay, motion made and seconded to go to 150,000. All those in discussion, further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, that seems to be what the assessors would like. Andrea, correct?
I think they consider that the safest route to go. And again, if you don't end up using it, obviously you can reappropriate it. If we end up with some abatements for a few, you can adjust it next year, look at the number, see what we have in the balance and.
Sure, and act accordingly then.
Yes.
Okay, anything else on an update?
Not at this time. Some of the other things you have are coming up on
Yeah.
the agenda, so I'll wait till then.
Sure, okay, thank you.
Andrea, I have a question on the
Sure.
revenues for the budget, on the budget summary.
Yep,
It says CPS funds appropriated fund balance 32,530. Where did that come from?
you're talking about for fiscal 22?
For fiscal 30, yeah, 22, because, I
Right.
know that doesn't reflect any number that we have.
It's the special articles that were last year.
Oh, special
When
article
you
from
added
last
up
year.
all the special articles,
Okay,
not
gotcha. All right.
the actual reserved for CPA, reserved for, then that's up above and it's separate estimated revenue CPA. That's like your actual that's your breakdown article, your administrative article, and then the 32,530 is always. And this year you're only asking for 15,000 for one thing.
Right,
So that 32,500 was the combination of all the articles last year.
just the articles.
Just the special articles other than your regular one. It was all the different projects you had added together.
Okay. We still don't have anything which tells us exactly how much we have in the bank, so to speak, with.
You need a new update. You need a new update from yours. I'll let me send an email to the accountant and get you a new updated balance sheet.
Well, we need to know how much is in each of the three specials
Yep,
and the unappropriated,
projects.
the totals, not just for the year, but all the
Project.
time.
Okay.
That's the figure that we're having trouble getting a handle on.
All right, let me talk to Aaron and Pete and look, you need a balance sheet with all the totals for all the projects and the administrative account.
Yeah,
Okay.
cumulative balance. That's the thing, the cumulative.
All
I
right.
mean, we've been getting the year for the current fiscal year, but
I thought you guys straightened that out at the end of last year. So they should-
we haven't.
Still
We're
haven't
still
straightened
just
that out?
getting we're still just getting the current year. We
But
do
didn't the
not-
numbers actually get straightened out last year? I thought there
We
was a
thought
whole
they were
sheet.
straightened out, but we never
Okay.
received any official, number saying, okay, this is how much we have.
Okay, I'll talk to the accountant.
Okay, I think we have an undesignated, I think we have upwards of $100,000. So,
Okay,
and I've never seen that figure written down anywhere.
all right.
Okay,
Let me
Thank you.
get in touch with them and see what I can get you.
okay, I had down here to review and adjust any recommendations needed for the annual town meeting. So we've done that one for the
Just to let
assessors.
you know that I took the stipend accounts you wanted, because you put them in articles, and I put them in free cash because I figured then if they drop off or don't get passed, they don't, I'm sorry, I put them in raise and appropriate, because that way if they drop off, they don't go on the tax rate.
Okay,
See what I'm saying? But I mean, it's a total of $10,000. It was like 6 for the select board and 4 for the planning board. So you talked about wanting to do those numbers and those, and we didn't actually discuss how you wanted those funds raised. So I can always move that to free cash if you want instead. That's up to you, but I conserved the free cash since it was only $10,000 and put it on raise and appropriate, but I can move the funding source if you don't want it there.
okay, we only recommended the planning board one, I believe. And
Correct,
different
but I have
rates.
But I
And-
have to put it in because you put an article on, so I have to fund it in case it passes. So I have to pick a funding source for it,
Okay,
just in case it passes, because you guys said we don't recommend it, but you wanted it to be an article. So I have to
Right.
put in a funding source for it, just in case it passes.
okay, that's right, because we said put it to the voters and see.
Right,
All
and so I
right.
put the regular raise for them in the regular budget, and I took the additional money and put it in the article.
Okay,
Because you weren't talking about wiping out all their stipend. You were just saying
No.
the additional new stipend should be an article. So I did that, but I have to put it in a funding source in order to
okay,
put it on the
Yes.
town meeting warrant.
yes.
So
Yes,
it's
that
$8,200
makes sense.
and I split them I put them in raising by taxation, but I could move them to free cash if you want. I didn't know how you guys wanted to put them in as a funding source. That's up to you.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion accordingly?
But before that, I want to make it clear that we're not recommending this article. That would have to come from the select board.
Right, it says right now, no, but they're having their meeting tomorrow night to discuss it, so I left it in. If they pull it, I'll just remove the whole thing. But it's really up to them if they want it in or out. The select board signed the warrant. You guys are down as a no. But if they say we want it on, we want it, then they can put it in. So
Okay.
I think they may drop it. I don't know what they're gonna do. If they drop
Okay.
it, I'll pull the whole article out.
Okay,
But even
So-
if they leave it in, it's still gonna go down that you guys voted you don't recommend it. So either way, it's either coming out or you guys are going in as a no vote, so.
in case it passes, we do need to have
Fund
a
it.
source of funding, yes.
Right.
Okay. So, we need a motion on that to change it. To raise
Just
the,
a recommendation for how you would want, how you guys want to fund it if it goes through.
yeah, raise and appropriate is what you're suggesting.
That's what I put it in as, but like I said, I can move it to whichever you want.
I think raise and appropriate would be good since it's being voted on.
I would agree.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
okay. Would someone make the motion then?
I make a motion that for the article concerning the select board stipends and planning, and is it going to have to be an individual motion for the select board and individual for the planning board?
No, I think you can put the motion together.
Okay, concerning the stipends of the select board and the planning board, we can motion to raise and appropriate. You suggested, Lois, from which funds? Free cash or you said raise and appropriate, correct?
Yeah, raise. and
Motion
appropriate.
through for that funding mechanism to be raised and appropriate, excuse me.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to have raise and appropriate for these stipends?
Aye.
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 Aye, so it's unanimous.
I'll let you know after tomorrow's meeting if it changes, what they do with it.
Okay,
Just for an update.
yeah, all right. Any others that needed, that we want to adjust or change or anything?
I think
Okay.
everything else in the way you asked. So if you want to move anything, that's fine. But I think I'm pretty sure this is what I took from the meeting.
Okay, that's all right. Okay. I still haven't heard anything on the Pioneer budget. Have you, Andrea?
No, and I went today. I mean, we got an email that said that the numbers were changing slightly because they discovered an error in their calculation as to enrollment figures for the last, I don't know,
Yeah.
however many. So Northfield, as a result, will be going up. 0.22%. Yeah, the change in the resulting from the corrected enrollment numbers was Bernardston's going down, Leiden's going down, Northfield's going up, Warwick are going up. But I can't quite understand. Your email shows change in resulting corrected enrollment numbers. Bernardston looks like it goes down a little bit. So the assessment will go down a little bit, but we don't know what that will be yet because they have to recalculate everything. Leiden is going down in
And
their
they were
corrected
going up.
numbers, but their assessment's going up slightly. So I don't understand that. And then Northfield's going up and then going up. And then Warwick's number is the corrected results are going up in enrollment, but their assessment will be going down. I don't know. I don't get it. But they haven't sent us the actual numbers yet.
No.
So I still have the old school number in there. It's a small change, but I'll let you guys know as soon as I get it, and I'll send the spreadsheet out with the new, any impact on the budget. It shouldn't be too terrific because the numbers are small.
Okay, so when we voted the omnibus last week, we had, with the exception of the school for one of those. And as Andrea said, we're waiting. I think I sent out to everybody that enrollment change, didn't I?
The email.
I got it.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll see what I checked again today. There's nothing since the 3.3 budget update, which is the one we had from before. So I haven't seen anything.
Okay. Well, I think it's up to it's in the school committee's hands, isn't it? Well, when they do the refiguring, evidently, because they had their public meeting a couple of weeks ago, I think. And then, yeah. So,
Well, it was Jane was one of the two people that caught this. So
yeah, I know. Okay.
error in enrollment.
I guess, we
Keep you
don't have a
updated.
figure. That's the bottom line.
I did not get a
but-
figure. I checked today, but nothing yet.
Yeah. Earlier, Northfield's decrease was under 2%. The increase was under 2%, I believe.
Yep.
And Leiden went up, but now you're saying it's going down.
Well, it shows their percent went down of enrollment, but that they're estimating their change for assessment will go up. I don't know how that works.
I don't either.
I'm not sure.
I guess, we have to leave it at that for now, as you've got
Yeah, it
it.
shows they were a 1.7 increase over last year's request, and this is showing a potential 0.46% increase. So you're going to go over 2% potentially once this all plays back into the assessment formula. So I suspect you're going to see closer to a 2 in the end.
It's still under 2.5 though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So with that,
I would think we'll see. We'll
yeah,
see.
I think we should leave it open. I don't know if the rest of you agree. I mean, the only other figure we have would be last year's figure. But
Which was lower. No, it was lower, so you wouldn't go with that. Yeah.
But I think I
We've
know
also
this,
received absolutely nothing for a capital assessment. So,
they always have something for capital.
so I'm waiting for the official letter because that may also come into play. We have received nothing from them on a capital number.
Usually the treasurer gets a letter, I usually get the letter, and you would get it, I
The
would
select
think.
board gets a letter, yes,
Yeah.
but we
And
haven't seen it yet.
I know this holds you up on finishing up the warrant and so forth. How is it if we wait another week? Would that be too much of a problem?
Yeah, no, we should be okay. I'm assuming they're gonna get their letters out this week, so.
Okay, all
As soon
right,
as I get it and I plug the formula and I plug everything in, I will resend you guys the budget spreadsheet. You should be fine to look at it for,
yeah. Okay, is everybody okay with that? Let's get a consensus.
One of the things I think perhaps the difference that you're seeing isn't one of the things they're talking about an average, a 5-year average, and the other one is just for the 1 year. As far as the
Yeah.
assessment goes, I don't know how that factors in, but I'm somewhere in there. I know there's an average.
it's an average student enrollment over the last 5 years.
Yeah, and there's been a thing. I don't think it's just this year. I think it is. I think I read in the thing that was sent out that it was over a period of years. So
Yeah, because they were counting students that they shouldn't have been. Because there's kids that aren't part of that assessment count.
right. So
They don't include pre-K students, and they may have been including, I'm not exactly sure where they found the error. But there were students being counted who are technically outside the count.
but I think it's a multi-year error, not just the 1 year,
May
and
have
that
been over
might
the
be the
whole 5
difference.
years.
Yeah, and that might be the difference between the two figures, one going up, one going down.
Could be, yeah. Because the prior year went up and the current year went down, so yeah, but they're supposed to send out another sheet with all this numbers, so we'll see.
Okay. We all okay with that, with holding it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
That's
Yes.
good.
Okay, all right, we'll wait for it then. They've always, no capital requests, that's good, but they have something they want, but
Haven't seen it yet.
no, okay. Now, normally, it's customary, anyway, that the finance committee invites the select board to our meeting when we've made all our decisions on recommendations, and as a courtesy, we invite the select board in to explain our recommendations. Now, we have very few that we have not recommended this year, but it would be appropriate for us to invite them so that we could tell them our recommendations. Or will they be seeing that tomorrow night, Andrea?
I generally give them things, but I don't really discuss it with them. It's probably a good idea, and I think we made it part of our financial policy that you guys should have at least one joint meeting to discuss, the budget and the warrant and all that ahead of time, just so you all are on the same page, or discuss discrepancies you might have, or however you want to do it. The question is to you guys whether you want to do it at your meeting or their meeting, or whether you want to do it prior to the warrant really being kind of finalized, or before the warrant is finalized, because next week would be the last chance to do it kind of before they sign the warrant. The week after is their next meeting, but that would be, they'll have to have signed it before then. So
I would prefer that they come on Zoom to our meeting. How do the rest of you feel?
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I also agree and have it before they have to sign the warrant.
Mhm.
So you should invite them to your meeting on the 11th. Because I'm
That's
gonna have
a
to
week
have them
from
sign the warrant that week sometime in a special meeting, probably. they wait till their meeting on the 19th, it's too, well, no, they have I think it only has to be posted for a week, so they can sign it on the 19th. They're gonna plan to sign on the 19th. So you could do the 11th.
Yeah,
you
we
want it.
could have them in next week. That's the
That's fine.
11th.
Yeah. And I do meet with them tomorrow, so I can extend that invitation and
Thank you. That's what I was hoping. Yeah. Okay, everybody's okay with that? And
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah,
be-
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Um, I didn't have any communications from any source this week. Now we're getting down to the usual things on reports of meetings. But is there anything more, Andrea, that you need to have us pass on or make a decision about?
don't think so. I'm gonna look at my warrant list one more time. The only other thing that is, I don't have anything for you on an amount for the property yet, so that one may be something you have to visit at a future meeting. That's the only article I think that's monetarily involved that that you haven't actually has seen, but that's because I don't have that number, just doesn't exist yet.
Okay,
So, but that could show up at a future meeting and we'd still have time for you guys to take a vote.
yeah.
But other than
Okay.
that, I think we've pretty much been through all of the articles.
Did anybody find any anything they want to suggest about the material that Andrea sent us?
Yeah, if you caught anything, please let me know. I spend a
Yeah,
lot of time cross-referencing it, so sometimes I go blind. But,
did
I
you,
try.
anybody find anything? Bernie? You?
Yo, I'm all set. The figures that Andrea gave on the planning board corrected, took care of that issue. So we're all set. I didn't see anything else.
Okay. All right. Well, last week we were 3 hours, almost 3 hours. Tonight we're not, but if we've covered everything, we've answered everything you need, Andrea. I think, okay. Any reports of meetings? Bernie,
As I told our last meeting, we have an emergency services building committee meeting on Wednesday, April 6th at 4:00. And I've not had any correspondence or any information to add.
say the meeting isn't posted yet on the website, is it? I didn't see it the last time I looked.
I thought it was. Let me just look.
Yeah. Still got time if it wasn't. Oh, no, wait a minute. No. This is
For
Monday.
Wednesday. For Wednesday. Yeah, it's posted for Wednesday, the 6th at 4:00.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
they
set.
moved from Tuesdays to Wednesdays now because we had a couple people whose schedules changed. So we used to be on Tuesdays, now it's gonna be on Wednesdays.
Okay. All right. And also Wednesday night is the public forum on
Talk about a
the
water district.
water district, and that's over at Pioneer in the auditorium, I believe.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Is it at 7:00?
It's at 6:00.
Oh, okay. 6:00 Wednesday at Pioneer to discuss the formation of a water district for East Northfield. Okay. Tony, have you had CBA meetings?
no other meetings.
Okay. Jack, once in a while, I ask about that committee you're on about a business district or something like that. Has anything happened? There was no land available last time I remember hearing.
well, I think the chairman had some health problems and it's kind of fallen through the cracks.
Oh,
Well,
that's too bad. Do you think they might, decide on another chairman so they could go ahead? Not.
uh,
I'd be,
I don't know. I would be surprised, but
yeah,
I mean, Barry was the moving source. He had the town credibility.
yes.
He'd be difficult to replace.
Okay, then we'll wait and see what happens. Okay. Anybody else, any meetings that they want to comment on? There was a question a while back, Andrea, about the select board asked if there was any interest in having the resurrecting the four-town meetings. That started up because of concerns over the school budget. And so Jane from Bernardston and I had conducted those meetings. Turned out to be the best place was over at the Bernardston Senior Center. That could be upwards of 40 members, counting select board members and finance committees. So it needs a larger place than we can provide. But we've done, of course, nothing through the COVID period here. And some of you responded and saw no interest in having a meeting. And then I think it's a little late for something like that. And so I know those of you that responded said you were not interested in having another one. So I don't know if Andrea's getting any questions on that or not. Anybody comment?
I think the reason it came up before the board was to talk about more than just the budget, maybe other school related issues. I know the school resource officer was one, but I do know that the chair is working on that issue directly now with the school committee chair, I think. So, maybe it isn't necessary, but it was one of the avenues I think that came up at the select board to talk about possibly discussing if there were other school issues, not just the budget. It's a meeting because those issues affect all of the people in town, all the select board members, all representing their constituencies, obviously all the finance people, and obviously the school district themselves. So it's a good forum to utilize. It's too bad, maybe next year we suggest that the school do that as a budget presentation, not just their formal one at the school committee meeting. Maybe they would consider having one with all of those stakeholders as well, and just doing the same presentation even. That maybe they just feel that's redundant and everybody should come to their meeting, but I don't know. But we could reach out to them. And I don't know what the issues will be next year, whether they'll be more or different, or what'll happen with the budget. Conceivably, you could have a new superintendent, a new business manager, and a new principal.
Yes.
A whole new administrative team. So who knows what next year will look like.
Yeah, I like that idea of waiting until next year and see. I know last week we had one select board member that was concerned about some of the salaries that were being proposed.
Right, and that was another one of the reasons why he was proposing maybe to have that joint meeting.
Yes, yeah. But are the rest of you satisfied to say that we suggest next year that that's a good idea? Have one like the public forum, but have it just for town officials. Select board, well, we've had select board and finance committee members, and you were included, Andrea, and the others in your positions.
Yes.
Is everybody happy with that? Satisfied with it, I should say.
Sounds good.
It does sound good.
Yep.
Same here.
Same.
Okay. B, I see you've come on. Is there anything you want to say tonight? We're just about finished now.
I know, I'm sorry. I just got back from Amherst. I think it makes sense to, given what Andrea said and given the possible changes in the school in key leadership positions, I think it makes sense to do a meeting like you're suggesting next year. I think on the select board, I know myself, I just felt kind of blindsided by the SRO
Yes,
discussion. And I think if there's a budget concern, I think that needs to come out earlier, which is, I think what we were intending this year was to get directional, so we wouldn't have any surprises later on in the process. And I just don't ever want to go through a personnel hiring process again without all the ducks being in a row. It's just a waste of time, and it's not a good look for our town to be interviewing folks and then, to have discussion be uncertain about the funding or just raising lots of questions that should have come up like 2 or 3 months ago. So I think that was my concern. And I'm assuming you guys have looked at we'll be looking closely at any and all budgets.
yeah, they haven't given it to us yet. That's.
Yeah, so we need to see it.
Yes, yeah.
I think that's my bottom line conclusion for the night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's the concern about, apparently they didn't build full-time for them into their budget. And the town has, the prior chief had always put in the full amount of the SRO charges, and just in case they had it, and I guess, and then they did come back to having it. But as I understand it, the man that's doing it has another full-time job, so he juggles his time on this.
Right.
And now they don't want to spend money to have it. He's leaving, isn't he? At the end of the June.
Yeah, he's. I think, in retrospect, Lois, I think one, he's just so fantastic at what he does, and he does have a full-time job as a firefighter, and I believe he also does firefighting for Gills. So he was doing this part-time, and I think he's so good at what he does, and everybody just appreciates him so much that I think he gives a full-time feeling, even though he's only part-time.
Yeah.
And I also think, with COVID kind of shaking everything up for 2 years and people not being in the schools physically for a substantial amount of time, I think people just more on the school side weren't totally up to speed, maybe I'm just guessing remembering all the details. Whereas on the select board, we've been talking mostly about policing and with the police chief search over almost the last year. So I think policing and whatever the next steps are with policing in Northfield, it's front and center for the select board and maybe less so for other groups. So I think we just have to kind of adjust for that next year going forward with new people, is getting everyone on the same page early in the process.
Okay, so I believe blindsided is the word for it, but I think he's putting in 3 days a week. And what I understand is those days rotate. So it's not the same 3 every week because of his other schedule, apparently. So, but we still have it in the police budget for Northfield. And I think we're unanimous in all believing that it's a good idea to have an SRO. And so, okay, then let's see. I guess we're down to just settling. Okay, Andrea, there's going to be one article, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, about regional ambulance service. Can you just, there's no cost?
There's not going to be any article this year. What we did get was a regionalization and efficiency grant from the state. So we're going to begin the process of studying that, because there have been some demands in the area on our service. And there are several other towns that are looking at their emergency services in general, their police, fire, EMS. And so we had some contact with them and they were interested in talking to us about the ambulance. So it became pretty apparent that we needed to look at this whole thing differently. We needed to look at a regionalization idea. So we put in for the regionalization and efficiency grant. We got $40,000 and we're going to work with the Collins Center on the whole project to really go in and look at what a region might look like, how it might be established, how it might be structured, where things might be, how it would be paid for, so the whole thing. And finally have a serious study done.
Okay. Does anybody have any further questions on the ambulance service and studying it? I mean, I think it's a great idea. Study it, find out just what the needs are. And I think
What would the funding mechanisms look like? How would that impact? Like, they're just, this has been done in other areas, so it just makes sense for somebody to do it for our area. Because there's a serious need of paramedic level ambulance service in the north of Franklin County now.
Yes, I noticed, some changes around in some over the towns in western Franklin County are having a shortage and that sort of thing. So, yeah, at some time back, I suggested about having a North County ambulance service, whereas Sunderland, Whately, and Deerfield have South County ambulance service, but the director was not interested. And then I had heard about Peterborough, New Hampshire, and their service. That's a different model. They are the larger town, and they serve several small towns around them. But so they have a billing formula for that service. And that was, they weren't in. But I think you're saying they need
Well, this grant could look at that. They could look at what the best funding mechanism might be. I mean, we haven't made, obviously no conclusion has been drawn as to how to recommend that, because we're just now signing the paperwork to even start the process. So
yeah.
I'm hoping all of those different avenues would be explored.
Okay. And there may be more types of.
There may be, maybe whole different mechanisms we haven't even been exposed to.
Yeah. Just one other thing, at a recent select board meeting, the director of the ambulance service was there, and he was asked how he got along with the finance committee, and he said, we have to move on from the 70s. So I think we have, and we are not living back in that age by any means. And then I believe we've kept up with things, and he hasn't been denied anything. So we're not
No, I
looking.
think the process went pretty smooth this year, but he wasn't asking for any town funds, and he strove to do that. So,
Yes.
but that gives the breathing room for a year to really look at this project and see what comes of it.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody, any questions on that? Okay. All right. Anything else that anyone wants to bring up at this meeting? Then I would need a motion to adjourn. And
I make-
6:53. Okay, did you make the motion?
Made a
Bernie?
motion.
Tony, thank
Yeah.
you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Gee, I didn't think
Thank
you
you.
wanted to stay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.